Hello, welcome to Lost in Movies. I'm Alec Kerr, the film critic for the Conway Daily Sun, and I'm joined by...
Smokin Jay.
Hey.
Yeah. How's it going?
Good, good.
Good.
Kind of doing a Halloween episode here.
Yes.
Yeah.
My favorite time of year.
Yeah.
Spooky movies.
Yeah. So the main movie we're going to talk about came out about a week ago. It's an Amazon original, Totally Killer.
Yeah.
And it's a slasher time travel movie. I've always have had a soft spot for time travel movies because I grew up on Back to the Future.
Of course. We all did. Yeah, absolutely.
So and I also really like, and we'll get into some other ones, like I kind of call it the highbrow or the high concept slasher movie. It's kind of like this new little genre where they take a slasher movie and then like jam another genre on it.
Yep.
So like the Happy Death Day movies, it's a Groundhog Day time loop movie.
Yep.
And it kind of like elevates the slasher genre a little bit because the slasher movie can get kind of a little stale. So I feel like throwing another genre in there kind of spices it up a little bit.
It definitely livens up the movie a little bit because you're right. Slasher movies are slasher movies. It's the same movie.
There's a formula.
Yeah.
So if you can tweak that formula somehow.
Yep. Or just introduce something new into that formula.
Right.
The formula is still the same.
Yeah.
It's just a different playground.
Yeah, an element to like kind of change it up.
Yep.
So Totally Killer there is the Sweet 16 killer in 1987, kills 3 16-year-old girls, then goes dormant, and we go to the present day, and one of the survivors has a daughter, and the daughter's like, oh, just stop being such an overprotective mother. Don't worry about it.
Very overbearing and protective.
Yeah, but then the killer comes back because they always do.
Yep.
But conveniently enough, her best friend has invented a time machine.
For the science fair.
For the science fair.
At school.
As you do. At a broken down carnival.
Yeah, it was the ticket booth, or it was the picture.
Yeah, it was the picture booth.
Yeah.
Which that's kind of funny.
It was good, yeah.
So she winds up going back to 1987 just before the killing spree, and she's going to try to stop the killer.
Right.
Yeah. Which is a good premise.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Not a bad premise. She didn't intentionally go back.
No, she
kind
didn't.
of a mistake.
It was a mistake, which it always is. It's the whole Marty McFly thing, accidentally going back in time.
Yeah, but she gets to meet her mother as teenagers and see like her dad and her mother and all of their friends.
And and she discovers that they were mean girls. And
what do they call? Oh, what were they called? Oh, it was.
Oh, it was the Mollies.
The Mollies.
They all wanted to be Molly,
like Molly Ringwald,
which is kind of like a nod to like the Heathers and everything. But I thought that was really funny. They all wanted to be different versions of Molly Ringwald.
Yep, they all dressed like a different character,
which is funny.
It was pretty good.
And I think the movie was smart in the sense that a lot of times they have like people go back in time and like start referencing things that people wouldn't get then, and she does do that, this character. But the first thing she does is say, hey, have you guys seen Back to the Future? Which that movie came out in '85, so they totally would have.
Yep.
So the fact that she did know that and was like use that as a reference point was smart.
It was try to get them. Yeah.
Like you know this movie. It's like I'm living it right now. It's like are you
real.
high? But and speaking of high, there's this great gag where like she eats like a bunch of pot brownies.
Oh yeah.
But has no effect on her because it's '80s weed.
And she's used to the nice. Yeah. Very relatable to today's.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it's just like that, like things like that, and there's a lot of sort of like commentary on like how we would see so much of the '80s as being problematic, and so that juxtaposition.
Oh man, they really played on that. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you can't say that. You can't do that
you can't
now.
do that.
And then they're like, what are you talking about? This is just the
or
way.
just going to like
the bullying.
The assistant to the principal, just being like, so do you need any paperwork for me transferring? You're like, no, just go to class.
Yeah, like,
and it's so true.
Here's
like,
the DNA.
Yeah. What are you talking
he
about?
Just throws
DNA.
it on the ground.
And I was like, is that true? Like I looked it up. Like, no, they didn't really do.
No,
they had fingerprinting.
They had fingerprinting, and you might be able to peel off like your blood type.
Right.
But that was about the only thing DNA was good for. They had no idea what that was yet.
Yeah, I think it was just around that time period it had been invented and discovered. But like a small town cop would be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
DMA.
Yeah, they put some good actors in there too. That was pretty funny. I forget his name.
Randall Park.
Randall Park. Yeah, he's hilarious.
And the lead, and I had to I Googled an interview so I'd pronounce her name right. Kiernan Shipka. She was in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I don't know if you saw that.
I missed that one.
Yeah, it was a Netflix series based on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. But there was a comic book that came out that played it like serious, like he's an actual Satanist. It's a good show. You'd like it.
Let's check it out.
But she's clearly kind of fallen into the horror genre kind of type, and she's good.
She wasn't bad. Yeah, it was I thought it was really well done. Yeah. It was funny, campy, but the killer was easy to figure out, I think. Except for the end. It did have a nice twist.
There is a twist. There is an obvious killer, and they kind of do direct you away from that person.
Oh, they try.
There's absolutely 100% a red herring character that you know from the beginning that it's a red herring character.
Oh, yeah.
But then, I mean, to get into spoilers, there are two killers. It kind of follows the Scream formula.
We knew it, like, my daughter, we were watching steadily, she goes, oh, this is a Scream, there's two of them. Yeah. I'm like, no, there's just the one. And then the other one came out, like,
yeah.
All right, you got me.
Yeah. So I didn't get the first one, but the second one, that was the one I thought was the killer from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But I thought, even though they threw me off the scent, I was like, okay, I guess it's not him. But the way they brought him back in as the killer, I was like, okay, that's actually pretty clever.
Right. Yeah, because he wasn't the killer.
No.
The second killer was never the killer.
Right. He was never the original
until the future.
Killer. Right.
And then he ends up coming back.
Right. So I was like, okay, that's playing with expectations a little bit.
Yep. So, because he was writing a book or something about that.
He was a podcaster.
Right? Yeah, he was a podcaster.
Which is a major spoiler.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I don't think... It's okay to spoil this one, I think, you know?
But even that's funny. Okay, we've spoiled it. His motive was, well, I'm doing a podcast.
It would make it a lot more interesting.
Make it a lot more interesting.
Killings would,
It came back. I'm doing a podcast on a series of murders from 35 years ago. It's a little stale, so why did I bring the killer back?
Exactly. Well, let's liven it up a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, all right. Sure.
Yeah.
But even that really fits well into modern day, because true crime podcasts are so popular.
Oh yes, they are. My wife is addicted to them. I call them the Murder Your Husband shows. I'm like, oh, you're watching the How to Kill Me in My Sleep show today.
Oh, great. Right. Well, as long as she doesn't go out and start a new killing spree, be like, all right, I need new material.
No. But so what did you think of the rules of this time travel movie?
I liked that it did, because it does kind of do the Back to the Future rules, but doesn't. And I did appreciate that it kind of established this new idea that the whole, well, if you meet your parents and you cause them not to get together, and you're not born, you won't be disappeared out of existence.
No, because
you have already been born.
Correct.
You exist. So if you go back to the present, no one will remember who you are.
I liked how she explained that. If you go back, you're just going to go back to nobody knows who you are. You don't exist in their world anymore, but you're still there.
You're still there. And I liked that. I was like, no one's really quite done that.
No, because Back to the Future was he was going to disappear. He was going to disappear. Yeah, he was disappearing when his parents weren't getting together, right?
So I was like, okay, that's a kind of an interesting twist.
Yep.
And it also does do the Back to the Future thing, where when she does get to the present, everything in her world has changed, and she has no memory of it, but to the point of her name isn't even the same.
Oh, yeah, that was great. That was so good.
And luckily, because what they did was they do have their sort of Doc Brown character, where her best friend's mother was the one who created the idea of the
time machine, but she never got it to work, because Wi-Fi wasn't invented yet.
Or something like that.
I think it was Wi-Fi, so they needed to hook up to Wi-Fi.
Right.
And then that gave them the power they needed.
She was there to take notes for her.
Right,
so when she got to the there's a lot of things you need to catch up on. So I thought that was...
That was a give her the notebook.
Right.
Yeah, that was good.
And that was good casting, the daughter and the mother.
It was.
It was really well done.
My question on that, the ending, when she gives her the notebook, how does she know what's different?
That's true. That is true.
How would she know what the differences would be?
Yeah.
Between
I mean, I guess based on, they did talk a little bit. So she did say, well, my parents got together and like, so there wouldn't be everything, but like there was some like, because they did during the credits, they did show some of the things like, so it was like this guy is still,
right, yeah,
and now he's the principal. What? You remember when he farted in our face?
Yeah, typical 80s jock bully becomes the school principal in the end. Yeah, it was really good.
But so what do you think of the time travel rules? What would you do in a time travel movie?
Oh man, I would definitely be coming back rich. Why? It's there. All the information is there. I get you're solving the murder.
Yeah.
But no one ever does it. Biff did it.
Yeah.
Biff did it. He got the almanac and he made himself, Donald Trump in the future or whatever.
Which is so funny to watch that movie in hindsight because he's totally Donald Trump.
Oh, it's totally Donald Trump. And but nobody ever does that.
Yeah.
Like
they did do it in Hot Tub Time Machine.
Yes. Fantastic time travel movie.
Right.
Undercover,
because,
fantastic.
Rob Corddry comes back and he invents, his character's name is Lou, so he invents Lugal.
Yeah. And then, what's the other guy stealing all the songs?
Yeah.
He just now writes all the hot, pop culture songs of the generations now.
Craig Robinson.
Yeah, Craig Robinson's character, yeah.
It's great stuff.
So, yeah, then nobody ever does that.
Right.
Why wouldn't you do that? Take 5 minutes and
I guess
just take 5 minutes and go throw some money on.
I guess everyone's concerned about the butterfly effect. Like, if I do this, maybe I'll start World War III if I become rich. I don't know.
It's too late at that point. You're already in the past. So anything that you do is going to alter your future.
Right.
So
and
might as well come back.
If you do accidentally start World War III, if you come back a billionaire, you could stop it.
Right, exactly. You now become Batman. Yeah. So that's what
I
would
do. There you go. That's what you do.
That's what I would do.
You go back in time and you become Batman.
Not just Batman.
And if you don't want to be Batman, you finance someone to be Batman.
Right. Just some smart stock options back in '87. I mean, I know Apple was just coming out. You could have got in the ground floor there and been all set.
Or go over to Silicon Valley. Just be like this, and
that's it. Yeah. And, just set yourself right up.
There you go.
So,
so I did want to also talk about some of the other of these sort of high concept slasher movies. And the guy leading the charge on this is Christopher Landon, who has kind of become like one of my favorite directors in this sort of horror comedy genre.
His name's so familiar.
He did both of the Happy Death Day movies.
All right.
He did Freaky.
Yep.
And he also did We Have a Ghost, which, have you seen that? It's on Netflix.
I don't think so.
It's Anthony Mackie and his family buy a house. It's a haunted house, and David Harbour is the ghost.
Yes, I have seen that. Yeah. That's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah,
same
that
director.
Was really good. Okay.
So this guy has done all of these.
He's got some interesting stuff.
Yeah, and he does a lot of like different things with genre. So I feel like this movie, Totally Killer, was very much vibing off of his style.
Oh yeah.
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 But I love the Happy Death Day movies, and I just rewatched them. And the first one was doing the sort of the time loop thing, which that is such a good idea to put into a slasher movie.
Yeah.
That if you're stuck in a time loop and you're just getting killed over and over again, but you also have all that time to figure out who your killer is.
Yep. That was a really good. That would be a terrible day to have to relive.
I know.
But I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
You at least get a chance.
Yeah. And also that movie is just really clever with just the. Oh man, I lost my train of thought. Well, the second one was clever with like she actively tries to kill herself because she's trying to reset the timeline. And so there's this great montage where it's all of these different ways she's killing herself. And it's just, it's dark humor, and I love dark humor.
Well, yeah, the world's a bit dark. You gotta throw some humor into it, just so it's not all so serious. But yeah, Happy Death Days were good. And Freaky Friday was good.
Yeah, or just Freaky.
Or Freaky, yeah.
And what was cool about the sequel to Happy Death Day is that it just didn't do the time loop thing again. It actually did multiverse.
Yeah.
Where she gets knocked into another multiverse. And got to give them credit. They were ahead of the curve on the multiverse thing.
Yes, they were.
Because they were in there before Marvel was doing it.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, like, just to see, like, when a movie's kind of ahead of the curve, and, like, in hindsight, it's just like, look at you being on the pulse. Look at you being on the pulse there. But I love that it just completely hopped genres, and, like, the slasher element of that movie is almost, like, incidental, and it just becomes, like, a sci-fi movie, and very much vibing off Back to the Future. And there even are, like, a few musical cues in that movie that are lifted from Back to the Future.
Oh, really? Just a...
And there's a wood chipper that says, like, Biff's Wood Chipper Company. I was like, that's like
that's
little,
pretty good, yeah.
little cherries like that I like. Yeah, and then Freaky is a twist on the body swap movie.
Yeah, a twist on the body swap on top of a slasher movie.
Yeah, and I think that's also just such a really funny idea.
Well, it was a funny idea, and I think they cast Vince Vaughn perfectly.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn as a teenage girl is just perfect.
You know, everything I've seen Vince Vaughn in, he's always just Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
He's not a great character actor. But in Freaky, he actually pulls out some acting chops, I feel. It wasn't just Vince Vaughn at doing this scenario.
Right.
You know, he was a character.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
Vince Vaughn can be a very good actor.
He can. I'm not
but
saying
he does.
he's bad,
he does rely on the hey guy. Let me talk. I'm going to talk million now. I'm going to talk.
Yeah,
super
he's
fast.
always.
And he doesn't
Vince
do that.
Vaughn.
Yeah, he doesn't do that. And like him as like this is like, oh my god, guys, like.
Yeah, no, it was really out of his character to play, and
but yeah,
I thought he nailed it. It was pretty good.
Yeah, and the girl, Catherine Newton, does a good job of being this serial killer in the body of a teenage girl and being like, wait, I can just lure guys in?
My life is so much easier
it's so much easier to kill them now. I just have to be like this cute, sexy girl. And like, but what's also good about that is that seeing that, she kind of finds her own confidence. Like, she's like watching this killer be sexy and confident. And when she sees that as Vince Vaughn, she's like, oh, well, I could borrow at least some of this from.
No, good one.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what I was going to say when I lost my train of thought. But the Happy Death Day movies, they actually do have a lot of like heart, which I wasn't expecting. Like, I was kind of like, am I like getting misty-eyed over here? Because there are some scenes that are like really emotionally like heavy, because it's like in the first one, it is like there's a daughter-father scene, and then the second one, there's a daughter-mother scene where they kind of just like have these real cathartic moments.
Yeah.
Which is nice, and you don't necessarily see that in a slasher movie.
No, I think it's them trying to just ground it to make it a lot more to get you into the story.
Right. I think at this point, so many people are familiar with slasher movies that just grounding it, like you said, helps people stay invested. Like if all of a sudden you're like, oh, usually these characters are going to kill off very quickly. I actually really like this character. I don't want them to die. I'm invested, because so much of these slasher movies, you wind up being on the side of the slasher.
Oh yeah, you're trying to guess who's first.
Right.
You can usually pick the pick them up. Like,
so this is kind of flipping it so that you're like, because that's what happened with the slasher genre. Like, you watch it for Jason, you watch it for Michael, you watch it for Freddy. You don't watch it for the people that die.
No.
So like, I feel like these movies, Happy Death Day, Totally Killer, Freaky, are trying to be like, oh hey, we want you to actually care about the protagonist, not the killer.
They had to do something after the Scream movies.
Yeah.
Because Scream movies put everything on display.
Right. The rules are out there.
The rules are out there. And you can't take them back. We all know them.
Right.
So they got to get a little more creative now to not just stay with that same, plug and play genre,
And that's what all these movies are doing. Like the whole like, oh, if you're a virgin, you survive. Like if you do drugs, if you drink, you're gonna die. Like those rules are kind of been thrown out because, like you said, Scream is like changed it.
Yeah, changed the slasher genre forever.
Right.
And for a good thing. For a good reason, I think. Otherwise, they would just all be Friday the 13th movies.
Right. Well, the slasher movie was dead until Scream kind of came out and said like,
you gave it a real revival.
Right, because where the genre was like all of the big heavies were done. Yeah. Like the last Halloween movie before they did H2O, originally H2O, the 10 years later one, where Jamie Lee Curtis came back for the first time, was going to go direct to video. Like that's where that franchise was going.
It was just like, there's nothing there
but then Scream came out, and it was like, oh, okay. And so it revitalized everything.
It sure did.
Yep.
Yep. I can't disagree. Then they redid all the leather faces. And the genre's popping again.
Yeah. And then there was another film that Totally Killer seemed to be vibing off of a lot, called The Final Girls. And this was like an indie film. I don't think it got a huge release. It's easy enough to find. I think it's free on YouTube. But it's a very similar premise where a teenage girl, her mother starred in an 80s slasher movie. Then years later, her mother dies, and it's like the anniversary of her death. They're doing a screening of this 80s horror movie her mother was in as like a tribute to her. And of course, a killer shows up. And somehow she gets her and her friends get pulled in to the movie. So they know how the movie plays out, and they know all the rules and all the tropes, and so they're trying to like help all the characters in the movie, but they're not just 80s characters. They're 80s characters in a slasher movie, so they're particularly dumb. Like, at least like with Totally Killer, when she goes back in time, like, they're actual people.
They're actual people.
These are just really dumb movie characters.
Okay. That sounds interesting.
But like I was saying with Happy Death Day, there are these really emotional, like cathartic scenes where this daughter gets to say goodbye to her mother, and it's not really her mother, but like the character kind of like the movie version kind of knows like there's a connection between us too, right? And it's one of these things where I'm like, am I crying at a slasher comedy? What the hell is going on? But it's really well done. So that's another one worth checking out.
Yeah, I'll have to give that one a check.
Yeah,
it looks good. I like that movie. The premise reminds me of that old John Ritter movie where he gets sucked into the TV.
Oh yeah, Stay Tuned.
Stay Tuned.
Yeah,
just a horror version of Stay Tuned.
It's kind of like that.
I'm interested. I'll have to check that out.
There's also another movie called Purple Rose of Cairo, which is a Woody Allen movie. Which I know you can't talk about Woody Allen because he's evil, but I still like Woody Allen movies. It's the whole like, can you separate the artist from the art sort of thing. But Purple Rose of Cairo was a good movie.
Yep, it is. I've seen that movie. It's quite good.
Yeah. So we still have a little bit of time here. Is there any movies that you're really like, you're sort of your Halloween seasonal staples that you go for every year?
Oh, yeah. So, Hubie Halloween.
Yeah.
Once that came out, that's my kid's favorite Halloween movie. So we've already started that.
Yeah, I watched that the other day.
Yeah. She loves The Shining. Her getting, Settley's now getting a little older, so horror movies are now a part of her thing. So Scream actually is what got her into the horror genre. So The Shining, we've watched The Shining, Carrie, kind of gone down the Stephen King rabbit hole a little. One that I would say I would watch every season. The Exorcist, I think.
Okay.
That one I always revisit around Halloween time. It was one of the scariest movies in my mind, so that one's always on the list.
And that's another one that they keep trying to bring back. I mean, it's currently was brought back, and I didn't really have much desire to see it.
I have no desire to see it, honestly. That first one was so traumatizing when I was a kid. It took a long time for me to really just watch that movie and digest it as a movie and not...
I've actually only watched it one time.
Really?
Yeah, just because it is
incredibly boring and fantastic.
Yeah.
The beginning hour is...
It's all set up.
It's all just set up for Reagan and her to take over, but it's just so terrifying.
Yeah.
And that premise to me is the scariest stuff.
Yeah.
Like the Exorcist movies, the Pope's Exorcist is excellent. Like any of those, The Nun, those all really get to me.
Yeah. I do enjoy the horror genre now. My wife, Ashley, cannot. And it's funny, like we try to find her threshold. Like she loves Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, that's another one we watch that every Halloween.
Great movie.
Shaun of the Dead,
And I think as long as there's like enough comedy in the movie, she can do it. So she watched Totally Killer with me.
I was going to say, did she watch Totally Killer?
She watched Freaky with me.
Yep.
And I was able to sell her on it. Well, it's Vince Vaughn as a teenage girl. Well,
you got it.
Okay.
Has she seen People Under the Stairs yet?
No, we haven't watched that. I have a friend from high school who, like, he's switching all of his Blu-rays to 4K. So he'll send me a message like, you want this one? You want this one? You want this one? And he'll give me like 20 DVDs for like $50 or something.
Oh yeah. So you just got.
I've been getting
years
stuff.
and years of
so
stuff.
We've been trying every year. We try to do like one movie a day for October, of something like Halloween theme, and we never make it. This year we're gonna make it.
Yeah, but I've been following your progress. I'm like, they're still going, like pretty good.
But because Ashley doesn't do like super scary, we've been having to dig, and so I found like some like sort of like hidden treasures, like this movie called High Spirits with Peter O'Toole and Steve Guttenberg and Beverly D'Angelo.
I was gonna say I know that movie.
Yeah, like I'd never heard of this movie.
One of my favorite movies because she has a huge thing for Steve Guttenberg.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Yeah,
but she's met several other women.
Yeah.
Of her age group, and they're like, "Oh, you Steve Guttenberg, you say?"
Yeah, 3 Men and a Baby, Steve Guttenberg.
Like he was the sex symbol back in the day, Steve Guttenberg.
You didn't go for Tom Selleck or Ted Danson. You went for Steve Guttenberg.
I didn't know Steve Guttenberg had the pull with the ladies like that, but he did.
But yeah, High Spirits was a movie I'd never heard of before. I feel like it's one of those movies that's completely dropped off the radar.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a ghost movie where these Americans go to this hotel, Castle Hotel in Ireland, and the owner, Peter O'Toole, is trying to pretend like it's a haunted house, but unknowingly it actually is a haunted house. And Daryl Hannah's also in it. It's sort of like Splash in the sense that she's like the supernatural being that the schlub falls in love with. And it's one of like the earliest roles for Liam Neeson. He plays the husband of Daryl Hannah's ghost. So they're the two ghosts in it. And it's so funny seeing like a young-ish Liam Neeson.
I was gonna say, was he ever young?
No, he was young-ish, but he's like going full on in with his Irish accent.
Yeah.
And he's being like comical, and like you're just not used to seeing Liam Neeson being funny.
That's not Liam Neeson.
So like it's not like an amazing movie, but like as sort of like a discovery, you're like, wait, this is actually good. Why aren't people watching this? Like people watch Hocus Pocus every year, and Hocus Pocus, I love it, but it's not a great movie.
No.
So like it's always fascinating, like what movies that are kind of just good don't make it, and then other movies that are just sort of good do make it and get cult followings.
I've never understood the Hocus Pocus craze. Like, all right.
I mean,
now they're doing a third one now.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I like Hocus Pocus. I do, and I in hindsight, like I've started enjoying it more just because of its cult status, and you can kind of. I have a Blu-ray version of it that has all these things that get played. It memes the movie as you're watching it, and it does like a counter, like number of times version has said.
Yeah.
And so like watching it on that level, almost making it sort of like a Rocky Horror experience where like you shout things at the movie.
See, I definitely could see that movie becoming to that stage like Rocky Horror.
Right.
Cult classic.
And they are doing shadowcast of it, where you do the Sanderson sisters. And
absolutely.
I think it's one of those movies where like the movie itself isn't great, but what you bring to the movie, like Rocky Horror Picture Show is not a great movie, but what you bring to it and the interactiveness to it,
that's what makes it.
That's what makes it great. And I think Hocus Pocus is the same thing.
Have you ever been to Salem?
I have not been to Salem.
For the Halloween
I haven't.
months.
I want to. I haven't done it.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Everyone should try to go at least once and experience it. It is pretty cool, very overwhelming. But they have whole tours of Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
Like this is where the dance took place.
Yeah.
And this is where the house is. And
I just saw a video where like 3 of the cast members are actually going to be in Salem this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if you want to go and you want to deal with insanity,
get there about 7 in the morning.
Thora Birch is going to be there, and Vanessa Shaw, and I can't remember the name of the lead kid. So none of the witches, but
I was going to say, no, Bette Midler's not making an
but
appearance.
the kids now as adults are going to be there.
Cool. That'll still bring in a
ton of people.
I mean, there's a ton of people that go to that.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah, happy Halloween. Go watch some terrible, scary movies.
Yeah, watch some terrible, scary movies. Like, and also
undercover one that you've never seen before. Find a new one.
I watched one with Steve Buscemi called Ed and His Dead Mother. It was a weird movie.
Steve Buscemi,
Steve Buscemi, like 1994.
Wow.
Yeah, Weird movie.
Yeah.
But worth a look.
He actually made it a cameo in Totally Killer. Did you notice that?
I didn't.
He was, when they were watching the movie, it was Steve Buscemi on the TV screen.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like a quick little appearance. I don't know what movie that they were, showing on the TV in the movie, but
I'll have to go back
it
and
was
watch
Steve Buscemi 100%. I was like,
oh! That's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, go watch some scary movies.
Yeah, some terrible.
And if you can't do scary movies, find stuff like Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters.
Oh, Beetlejuice, that's another one.
There's plenty of stuff to watch that is kid friendly or low scare level.
I'm super excited.
Yeah. So anyway, come back and get lost in movies again.
Super excited for Beetlejuice.